The Legendary Hero Summoning event for March is here and brings a new Legendary Hero to the game that introduces yet another type of class we've yet to see. Before we get into that, let me recap what a Legendary Hero Summoning event is for any of you who may be new players. So this banner is a special limited time event where the 5-star focus appearance rate starts at 8% instead of the usual 3%. However, this is because the non-focus 5-star category is set to 0% the whole time. This means that if you end up rolling a 5-star unit, it will always be someone from this banner. You will not get a non-focus unit, commonly referred to as a pity breaker, because they reset your increasing pity rate for the banner. So basically, the chance to pull a 5-star is higher, and you are guaranteed to get someone from this banner if you do pull any 5-star units. The Legendary Hero Summoning event is also the only place where you can obtain certain units, such as the new Legendary Female Robin. In this video, I will talk about our new hero for a bit, and then I will discuss each color in more detail to let you guys know which ones are worth pulling for based on unit strength, as well as what skills they have to offer for inheritance. So Legendary Female Robin is actually another incarnation of Grima, and I'm not going to explain what that means in terms of spoilers. Sorry, Fire Emblem Heroes doesn't really care about spoiling the main games. Anyways, I'll be referring to this Robin as Legendary Female Grima, or just Female Grima, to differentiate her from her male counterpart. Now in terms of gameplay, Female Grima brings a lot of craziness to the table. First off, she is our first colorless dragon and another flying dragon like Mar. Because of this, she is the first melee colorless unit, and keep in mind, she does magic damage. Female Grima is also our second Earth Legendary Hero, and that means she will buff up anyone who carries an Earth Blessing, as long as it's an Earth Elemental season. So most of you will be familiar with Legendary Ike, our first Earth Hero, and his bonus stat increases attack. However, Female Grima will instead grant a bonus +3 speed instead. Basically, just keep in mind that the stat bonus from blessings will be tied to individual Legendary Heroes based on their element. Moving on, Female Grima's weapon is the same as Male Grima's, and it's called Expiration. It's a unique Dragon Breath that has 16 might and has a built-in distant counter effect. It also comes with the upgraded Dragon Breath effect, which means that when attacking ranged units, Expiration will target the lowest stat between defense or resistance, essentially meaning free extra damage if that ranged unit has less defense than res. Expiration is pretty solid, you probably won't be changing it out for anything. Female Grima comes with Bonfire, which is nothing special, however she does have a new A skill that I'm confident will be unique to her. Dragon Skin neutralizes effectiveness against flying unit bonuses, meaning bows and the Excalibur Tome will not deal with that extra 1.5 times damage against her. This is the same as Iote's Shield. Its second effect grants Female Grima +4 defense and res when she gets attacked first, and that is pretty good considering she has distant counter capabilities. So Dragon Skin protects her from nasty archers, which are a flying unit's biggest counter, and she gets some extra defenses. A pretty good skill that synergizes nicely with her weapon. Continuing on, Female Grima comes with Cancel Affinity, which seems really odd, and basically the only time this skill will be useful is if she gets attacked by a mage using a Raven Tome and also Triangle Adept. Colorless units have no natural weapon triangle disadvantage, and Raven Tomes are the only way to get that triangle advantage. Now Cancel Affinity only targets Triangle Adept, meaning a Raven Tome user without it will not get affected at all. Basically, I think the idea is that Female Grima's base kit is set out to get rid of disadvantageous matchups. With both of these skills, the only way to get a damage multiplier against her is if you attack with Falchion or one of the two Naga Tomes. Essentially, Female Grima won't be getting any advantageous matchups because she is colorless, but also isn't fighting disadvantageous matchups against the weapon triangle. The last skill Female Grima has is Res Smoke, and this completes the whole spectrum of smoke skills. We now have smoke type skills for attack, speed, defense, and resistance, and just like the other skills, Res Smoke will inflict a nasty -7 res debuff on enemies within 2 spaces of the target after combat. This means if Female Grima gets into a fight with multiple enemies, she can dish out some extra damage to them after the first encounter. Overall, Female Grima looks like a pretty defensive unit, distant counter abilities, skills that grant bonus defense and res, and also being able to negate bad matchups means you will most often just have to fight her on an even playing field. The nature of colorless units means she won't be dishing out insane damage to any one color, but she also isn't scared of fighting any color, and that can be a good thing for a tank. I would have to say that even without knowing her full stat line, Female Grima will be an interesting unit to have. Another colorless flying unit, and this time it's one that can dish out magic damage at any range. Between Female Grima and Spring Kagero, I would say magic damage and having distant counter means Grima will be a bit more relevant in arena play. Spring Kagero isn't bad by any means, it's just more that dagger units in general struggle to find a place on most teams. On the other hand, dragons have become incredibly popular, and having another flying dragon who has built-in distant counter is going to be pretty sought after. Obviously, if you want more flyers, I think Female Grima will be a nice addition to have, and personally I would say at the moment she is more valuable than Spring Kagero. However, keep in mind that Grima will return on future Legendary Hero summoning events, and the next time we see Spring Kagero could be a long time. Hopefully that helps any of you make a decision on who to summon for, but now let's move on to talking about the rest of the Legendary Hero summoning event. Here is our lineup for this summoning event. In the top left, our red units are Legendary Ike, Halloween Noe, and surprisingly, Zelgius. To the right, our blue units are Fjorm, Brave Lucina, and Lute. Bottom left, our green units are Summer Elise, Gunthra, and Summer Tiki. Last is our colorless units are, of course, the new legendary Female Grima, Brave Lin, Oh My, and then Halloween Sakura. Not that bad of a legendary summoning event. Now I'll go through each color and discuss each unit with the skills they have to offer. Now everyone got the chance to get Legendary Ike for free, so maybe you don't need another copy of him. However, he still has some pretty decent skills for inheriting. Warding Breath is still very popular, just like Steady Breath, and Legendary Ike is the only source of it. Of course, a lot of people are going to want this skill, so even if you already have Legendary Ike, maybe picking up Warding Breath is still worth it to you. Defense Tactic is also another good skill to inherit off, however, we did just get the Defense Tactic Sacred Seal, so maybe you don't really need it necessarily. Next we have Halloween Noe, and she is pretty valuable mainly because she is currently the only red flying mage. Flying mages are pretty darn scary because of the possibility of using a Blade Tome, and they can fly anywhere basically. It's a very powerful combination, and just having the option to use her is very powerful. However, Halloween Noe also has some decent skills. Attack and Res Bond 3 is pretty cool, and Honed Flyers is always valuable to have. She is one of 3 units, and all of them are all 5-star exclusives, with 2 of them, including her, being limited time units. Seriously, Honed Flyers is so good for Fire Emblem teams. Halloween Noe is going to be a really good pickup for you, no matter what you want to use her for. Last we have Zelgius, who I'm pretty surprised to see already on a Legendary Hero summoning event. He is pretty darn good, one of the best sword armor units in the game. Very similar to the Black Knight with Alondite and Black Luna, so really, he's not going to be a huge improvement if you already have a Black Knight that you invested into. He does come with Warp Powder, however, which is unique to him and does give him some extra tricky mobility. And Fierce Stance 3 is going to be pretty good for any units who want sky high attack like Zelgius when he gets attacked. Panic Ploy is also a good skill to inherit off, however we do have a Sacred Seal version of it, so maybe you don't exactly want to sacrifice him for that skill. Overall, red is really good. All of these units are very good in combat, and they all have pretty decent skills to inherit off anyways. A very good color to summon on in my opinion. For blue units we have Fjorm, who is back, and while everyone also has the chance to get her for free, maybe you want to use her for some very good skill inheritance. Attack/Defense Bond 3 is only from Fjorm currently, and is a pretty cool skill. You can make some really decent defensive builds with that. Shield Pulse is also another really good skill that is very rare to get hold of, and there is a lot of different defensive builds I would love to try with more Shield Pulse fodder. A Drive Attack 2 is also pretty decent, however it's kind of been on a decent amount of units so far, and well, I wouldn't really sacrifice Fjorm just for that. We also have Brave Lucina, who is making another return on a Legendary Hero summoning event. She is a pretty darn good team buffer with her unique weapon and Drive Speed 3. However, if you don't want to use her for fighting capabilities or buffing teammates, you can always use her to pass on Aether, which is always a very sought after special skill. And Sturdy Blow, while it's on a couple of units so far, it's also a pretty good skill to have. Drive Speed 3, again, pretty good skill, but it also can be found on other units that you can get, so really not the rarest of skills ever, but still pretty solid lineup. You can't go wrong with Lucina if you want to use her for combat, or if you just want to sacrifice her for some of these decently rare skills. Last we have Lute, who is a pretty interesting blue mage. With her Wielding Tome weapon and Res Ploy, she can kind of act like a blue version of Arvis and be able to throw down a lot of ploys on the enemy. You can even give her a ploy type Sacred Seal to add on to that. She does come with some decent skills to inherit. Not the best skills out there, but they are rare. She is one of only 2 units with Rally Attack/Res, so if you really want that combination, she's going to be a pretty valuable source for that. She also is the only unit with HP/Res 2. Well, obviously not everyone's going to really want that skill. The only unit to have it, so worth pointing out, I suppose. Res Ploy 3 is a little rare for the C-slot skill, but it is also a Sacred Seal, so that is another option. Plus, Lute is a pretty good user of Res Ploy herself. For green units, Summer Elise is a pretty high damage green mage, and while her Hibiscus Tome isn't exactly the greatest weapon out there, she can inherit something like a Blade Tome. She also comes with some pretty rare skills. She is actually the second person with Rally Attack/Res like Lute. and she is the only person with speed/res 2, again another interesting combination, but only she has it. And last, for her C skill, green tone value, while not useful in combat, does grant green mages a 2x boost to their SP gains, which is very useful if you want to train up units in the future. Very nice quality of life skill to have. Next is Summer Tiki, who is a decent axe unit, not the most powerful one out there. Her Melon Crusher weapon isn't the greatest one. You could probably replace that with something better to take advantage of her high attack. Her A skill is Close Defense 3, which is a pretty common Sacred Seal. However, in the A skill slot, it's still pretty rare and hard to get a hold of, so if you wanted to use it like that, then you may want to pick her up. Like Summer Elise, she comes with Axe Valor, which does nothing in combat. However, if you want to train axe units and get them double SP, then you're going to want Summer Tiki for that. It's a very nice quality of life skill, again, just nice to have if you're training units in the future. Last is Gunthra, who is our Wind legendary hero, and she is a pretty interesting unit because she works off of debuffs a lot. Her Blizzard Tome gets more powerful if the enemy is debuffed, and you can help that by using Chilling Seal and Res Ploy. Fortress Res 3 isn't the greatest A skill out there, however, it can work depending on certain builds for certain units, and Glaciers of course is a pretty common special skill. So Gunthra may not be the best for skill inheritance, however, she's a pretty interesting unit to have, and if we ever go into some sort of debuffing meta, she'll be a very strong unit there. Last is our colorless units, and starting with Halloween Sakura, she comes with her Kitty Paddle Plus, which is an inheritable dagger weapon that is effective against mages. It's the only one of its kind, so it's pretty specialized, but it's a very interesting weapon. Sakura is also pretty good at fighting mages herself. She has pretty decent resistance, and her Warding Stance 3A skill will help her get more res when she gets attacked. While she gets attacked, she also uses Guard 3 to prevent the enemy from activating any sort of specials, which is really good. And last, she comes with Dagger Valor, and that is just, to help train herself or more dagger units get that extra SP bonus, which is always nice for training in the future. Next is Brave Lyn, and for veterans, she requires no introduction. If you're a new player, Brave Lyn is basically one of the best archers in the game, very scary. She is an archer on a horse, which means she has 3 movement plus 2 range, which is really hard to fight against. Her Mulligear bow is very powerful, and Sakei's Blessing cancels out Distant Counter, which is very powerful at the moment. She also is pretty good for skill inheritance because she has Swift Sparrow 2, very strong offensive A skill, and she also comes with Attack Smoke 3 in the C skill slot, which is pretty valuable, especially if you want to combine that with other smoke type skills in the Sacred Seal slot. Last, we have Legendary Grima, which we've talked about already. The only really worthy skill I would use for inheritance is Resistance Smoke 3. Again, she is the first one to have this skill. Cancel Affinity is, I would not sacrifice her just for Cancel Affinity. It's a very niche skill, and you don't really see it that often because it's so specialized. So even if we don't know how good Legendary Female Grima is going to be, I would still recommend pulling on Colorless just for the fact that Brave Lyn is here again. She is so powerful, it can't be understated. That about wraps up this Legendary Hero Summoning event. Do keep in mind that 8% is still only 8%. Last event I got decently lucky at the beginning, and then I got greedy and went on a miserable 70 plus summons until I got another 5-star. The gacha can be great, and then it can crush your dreams. As always, when the allure of 8% is tempting, this event isn't the greatest for trying to get one specific 5-star unit. It's good if you want any of those units, but getting one specific unit may be hard with the other 2 units in the same color. Just something to keep in mind. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think about Legendary Grima and whether or not you will be summoning on this banner. Personally, I will be taking a large pass because I'm still burned out from the last time. If I were to summon, I would say red and colorless are the ones with the best value, although that's just my personal choices. Blue and green aren't bad either, and if you want a certain seasonal character, well, here's your chance to nab them. Good luck on your summonings, and I will see you guys in the next video.